Welcome to the 99th episode of the Author to Authority podcast. And today I'm excited to have my wonderful co-host, Juanita Wootton-Radko, on the show. Not only is she the co-host, she's my right-hand woman at RTI Publishing. And we just won't talk about how long we've been friends for, because every year it gets a little bit longer. And today we're going to talk about a couple of different things. And one of the things we wanted to focus in on and continue on our series of talking about, becoming an author and then to authority. And that's the book that I'm going to be writing and releasing this year. And I want to talk a little bit about media today. But just before we do that, Juanita, can you believe that it has been almost 100 episodes?
It went by really quick, Kim.
It did.
Zoom! I think that's just fantastic.
So you'll notice on these shows that, especially the shows that Juanita and I do together, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. I have a nickname for my very best friend, and I'm the only person on the face of the earth who's allowed to use this name. And I occasionally go to say it on the podcast and have to course correct. So if I don't get Juanita's name correct, you now know why, because I'm not allowed to say it publicly.
Not that she's forgotten.
And if I want to keep my friendship, I got to be careful what I say.
Yeah, you don't want to lose that 5 gold star rating that you've got going for you, Kim.
But one of the things I've loved is actually doing these episodes with Juanita. And one of the reasons is that she knows me. Well, there's probably only really one other person on the face of the earth who probably knows me better than she does. And the crazy thing is, she still loves me. But I love having these conversations because Juanita knows who I am, who I serve, and how I serve. So I love doing these podcasts with you, Juanita, because we can really dive deep into, some of the topics that are so important for entrepreneurs to be able to move their business forward.
It's a great opportunity to actually talk about the mental game behind things, because I think a lot of times you have books that'll give you step-by-steps on formulas where if you calculate that you have this much in percentage of your time invested in returning the money, investing into your product, or doing this much time in professional development, those are all valuable things. But your mental space where you're working on improving yourself and fine-tuning your game as an entrepreneur is really valuable.
Yeah,
the psychology part of it.
Well, and one of the main areas that we talk about in terms of that is, what's going on in your 3 pounds of gray matter up there when you're trying to write a book. Here you are, an entrepreneur, you're trying to, do your business, you're thinking about becoming an author. It's a huge step to write that book. And so I love how we talk about those things as well, because they're equally important. Not just the skills. And by the way, Juanita, I love your writer's workshop. I'm so glad in the last month or two that we've implemented that. So if you guys don't know, once a month, Juanita does an episode on her own called the Writer's Workshop. And that is specifically geared to help you as a writer improve. So there's going to be lots of hints, tips, advice. She has the word of the day, and I know for a fact they're always delicious because Juanita is the word nerd and the grammar guru. She's got good stuff there for you. So I'm so glad we implemented those. And One of the things I love about when you and I do podcasts together, because we've known each other for so long, sometimes we can practically read each other's minds to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
But secondly, we really know how to play off of each other.
And why would we do it if we weren't playing and having fun?
Well, that's true. And we also even sing every once in a while. And it didn't work out for today's episode, but you and I are going to have to sing one of these days. So, Juanita, do you have any sort of maybe favorite sections or thoughts or things that we did that you wanted to share?
I really enjoyed the episode that we did where we focused on the in-person quotient with the author to authority. When you talked about how we needed to connect with our audience and understand who we're talking to, and get to know why they were, why they really wanted to hear from us. If you're not telling them something that they want to know, you're going to lose them, right? That's straightforward.
Well, I was working on the 100th episode today, and I won't give it away because I want everybody to listen, but there was one podcast we did, and something interrupted the podcast right in the middle. It was kind of unusual. Neither one of us were expecting it. And we played off of it, and we made it work to our advantage. So I actually included that clip in our 100th episode. And so I want to encourage all of you to listen to the 100th episode. I've taken clips from my 10 favorite podcast episodes with guests. So today's about Juanita and I, but the next episode is all about my 10 favorite guests that I've had on the show. We're going to have clips from all of their episodes. Plus, I'm going to have that clip from Juanita and I, and you are just going to laugh when you hear that one. So I want to get to a little bit today about today's topic, which is media. And let me just kind of lay a little bit of a foundation, because when I say media, you're probably thinking television, radio, internet, TV. Pardon?
Magazines,
newspapers, yeah, all that kind of stuff. So let me clarify a little bit what I mean by media. When you start your business, it's usually on a one-to-one model. So you talk to one person at a time, you convert one person at a time, and you build your business. And like we talked about in those in-person, there was actually 2 episodes we did on in-person. I didn't even realize it. We kind of did it twice, but came out with different things each time. Worked really good. But you eventually your business, if you're going to grow and scale your business, you have to go to the one-to-many model. So that's where you do one presentation to many people at the same time or over a space of a time, because like if someone's listening to a radio show or a podcast, let's say, they may not all be listening to at the same time, but the point is you have one message that goes out to many people, and that brings in exponential results. So that's what I mean by media. And I wanted to actually focus in today, because it's the 99th episode and the next episode's the 100th episode. I wanted to focus in on podcasting, because most people don't realize what a valuable tool podcasting is. And so my friend Juanita, I'm going to put you on the spot here for a moment.
Oh, like that never happens in an episode. It's almost like, oh, how far in are we? Oh yeah, it's right about spot time.
Well, just so you know, I'm a go with the flow, let's throw things in person. And Juanita's like, Kim, can you send me all the main points of the podcast at least a week ahead of time so I can prepare? So,
I want a script.
Well, I'll make it easy on you, my friend. When you hear the word podcast or podcasting, what does it make you think of?
It makes me think of the first time I got an iPod, and that was back in 2007. a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first podcast that I listened to was Steve Robbins' The Get It Done Guy podcast. He actually wrapped up that podcast series in January of 2020. And I felt there was a little time when I was feeling a little at sea. I'm like, no, you can't leave me, Stephen. I actually...
By the way, Juanita is happily married here.
Yes. You know, I enjoyed his productivity tips and just his humorous style. It felt like a conversation with a friend or listening to a friend on the phone. And a couple of times I wrote in to the podcast, and there was one episode where he actually used my question as the basis for the entire episode. Ooh. And he said that his friend Juanita had written in, and I was like, you know, I mean, when am I going to get that excited? Perhaps if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson mentions me on his podcast, that I'm going to scream, Dwayne Johnson. I forget what we were talking about. Podcasts. I love how immediate and intimate it is. That it feels very natural, and it feels like a radio program, but on a personal level, that you're listening to someone who understands you and is coming to you just in a very comfortable way. I don't want to say casual, because they're not always casual, but
no, they're comfortable.
That intimate level.
So when you think of podcasting and a podcast host, what kind of position does a podcast host have to you? So is a podcast host an everyday person, or is they kind of like elevated and special?
They are definitely special. I was like, whoa, I got off. I know somebody famous. The podcast host mentioned me. It does give you a certain amount of celebrity, right? It's not, maybe I'm sounding a little bit too fangirl with this, but it's true. You have the sense of connection, but at the same time, it's an elevated place. It's a place of authority, and so you really appreciate the recognition of speaking with a podcast host.
Well, first of all, I guess that makes us famous there, girl. But, you were talking about that, and I thought, you know what, that's a really good idea. So here's the thing. If you have a question for myself or Juanita, then you can email me at kim@authortoauthority.com. So it's kim@authortoauthority.com. And who knows, we might just feature your question on one of our episodes. So here's the thing about podcasting, and a couple of the points that I wanted to bring out with that is podcasting is what is considered long form content. And that's important. Social media is short form content, but you also, as an entrepreneur, need to have long form content. So, whether that's blogs, whether that's LinkedIn articles, podcasting. Podcasting is probably one of the best long form. Now, mind you, I love writing, so blog posts and articles, I love doing those. But when it comes to building that audience, I think the days of using blogging to build an audience are not gone, but just not as effective anymore. And I think podcasting is an amazing tool for you to build audience over time. So podcasting is not a short-term game plan for your business. It is a long-term game plan for your business where over time it builds momentum. And so it's going to take
a body of work, right?
Yeah, it's a body of work. And here's the thing, if you do your podcast where you're having guests on all the time, so not only are you building audience with the people who are listening, but you're building network with the guests that you have on the show.
Oh, it's multitasking. It's multitasking in such a great way.
Now, I'm laughing because I know how Juanita feels about multitasking. It's not usually something she likes to do.
It's not like the kind of multitasking where you're like trying to answer the phone and type an email at the same time. It's like when you boil vinegar in your kettle and then you use that boiling vinegar and some baking soda and you clean out the sink and also clean out the shower drain. And so you are getting such a bang for your buck out of that one boiling kettle. Oh yes, and then you can have a cup of tea. Just don't make your tea with the vinegar. I know. I made a vinegar latte. Oh, that chai latte was so, I was like, this tastes. Recipes I do not recommend.
Vinegar and dairy. Interesting combination. But yeah, Juanita, you are correct, because it's your podcast is very multi-purpose. And so here's the other thing about podcasting too, is it also helps you on your in-person skills, because it teaches you how to speak. It teaches you how to ask questions. It teaches you how to, okay, in a sense, your podcast, getting podcast guests is almost like a little bit of a sales process.
Ooh, sneaky.
Right? Now, in most cases, you know, people are coming to you to be on your show, but sometimes you're reaching out to people as well. Like the author to authority is kind of a combination of both. I get a lot of referrals in, and but I also reach out to a lot of people as well. But it's in a sales process in the sense that you have to know who you are, who you serve, how you serve them. You know, like that's the core of your podcast, right? Is knowing who you are as a podcast host. You know, who do you want to serve? Like, what audience do you want to build? Who do you want listening? And then how you're going to serve them. So, you know, what platform do you do your podcast? Is it short 5 minutes? Is it medium 10-15? Is it 30, or long ones like an hour? Do you have guests, or do you just talk yourself? So there's a process there to figure out. But the process of talking to these potential people, and so here's something I highly recommend. If you're using a podcast to position yourself as the authority in your niche, unless you really know the person, you pre-interview everybody who's coming on your show.
Yes.
Because you don't want someone coming on your show and saying a whole bunch of stuff that you aren't going to like. Now, mind you, unless you're doing your podcast live, which I really don't recommend, you know, you can always just not do that episode. But then again, now you've got to bring on someone else to, you know, fill in that episode. So always...
Podcast doesn't take the length of... If you've got a 10-minute podcast, it took you more than that 10 minutes to record it. Yeah. Even with a script, you know, so where are you going to find that time? Yeah. Again,
yeah,
is something to consider.
So my pre-interviews are 15 minutes long. That's it. You know, I'll talk to somebody for 15 minutes. I ask them a few specific questions, and in that time, I'm able to gauge, you know, are they the credible expert that I want to bring on and present to my entrepreneur audience that's going to make a difference? So every guest is vetted, and that's important. But that process of pre-interviewing, it really allows me to get to know people. And some of those people that have been on my show have become my clients. Now, some of my clients have also been on the show as well. So it's like a huge, big circle. But the process of podcasting is a great way to build your tribe, your audience, your network. You know, it's a great place to find potential customers, referral partners. So your podcast becomes a multifaceted tool, just like your book does, your signature book does, in terms of building your business. Now, Juanita, do you have any other thoughts that you wanted to share about podcasting?
I think that everyone who is listening right now should first think about how they might be able to connect with us and maybe have a reason why they might be interviewed for the podcast. And they should tell at least 15 of their friends to listen to the Author to Authority podcast.
Oh. Well, that's the other thing too, and that's something I hadn't brought up yet, is, you know, when you have guests on your show, those guests share out their episodes to their audience. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's why I consider podcasting a media, because, you know, you're doing this once and it's going out to many different people in many different places. So that was a really good point, Juanita. I like that. Oh, wow. Just thinking 99 episodes. Mm-hmm. Oh. But, you know, we're not slowing down. We're just getting started.
So here we are, and it's the halfway point of the year. Will we be doing episode 200 before Christmas?
That's probably not, because we started in November. We went to 3 episodes in December. So December, January, February, March, April, May, June, 7 months, probably January. Oh, maybe my birthday. Maybe we'll do a special 200th one for my birthday or something. I'll have to figure that one out. We'll have to plan ahead. So it's a couple of months down the road, but Juanita and I are already planning a very special episode for the beginning of September as we celebrate an important friendiversary. So I wanted to give you a hint about that one. So Juanita, before we go, any final thoughts to share?
Congratulations on 99 episodes, Kim. I can't wait for the next 99.
So this has been Juanita Wootton-Radko and Kim Thompson-Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Make sure you tune in to the next one, because I've worked very hard to create an amazing episode for you, and you're going to get a ton of value from it. You're going to laugh. You might even cry a little bit if you're of that persuasion, but you'll definitely come out of it having an amazing sense of being an entrepreneur and what is possible in your business. So thanks so much for listening, and we will see you on the 100th episode. Bye now.
Bye-bye.